All right. Hi again. We are going to be talking about the degree progress report today and also how to search for classes. So I'm going to start by introducing myself because I forgot to do it yesterday. I'm Annette Maston, and we have a couple of other advisors on. They want to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Michelle.
Hi, Marissa.
Thank you, Michelle and Rosa, for joining us. All right, so I'm going to share my screen so I can do this. Give me 1 second to set it up really quick. All right, so to get to your degree progress report, it's in your student center. So let's start. I had to do it on this was going to be the easiest way without having to show student information. Um, so I went ahead and screenshot it, just added a bunch of different screenshots in here. So the first one is your student center. When you first come to it, this is kind of what it looks like. This is the advisor side, so yours might look a little bit different, but you have your enrollment dates over here. Don't confuse it. Right now we're getting ready to register for fall, but don't confuse that with summer because that's what these dates are. So you got your fall enrollment dates here. Make sure you don't have any holds. And if you're not sure if it's going to be a hold that impacts your registration, like a negative hold will stop you from registering. But if you click on the details here, it will tell you whether it's going to prevent you from registering or not. And it'll tell you who placed the hold, when the hold was placed. So that's always like a good thing to look for when you're getting ready to register for your classes. And then your to-do list is also something you should also look into, especially when you have the graduation writing test. That is something that you usually get when you've completed about 75 units. And it will become a hold if you wait too long. So after you complete 90 units, they're completed, not registered for, but after you've completed them, typically that graduation writing test to-do list item will become a hold. And you can only remove the graduation writing test hold by registering and paying for it. Right now they're kind of frozen, so I don't think there's going to be any available probably until fall. So graduation writing test holds are not being impacted right now on students. So to get to your degree progress report, you're going to go to this drop-down menu. Again, I apologize because it's not like a live screen, but it is down in this drop-down menu. And then once you get into it, it'll look something like this. So it'll tell you your major, when you started. It'll tell you when you started here and when you started that major. If it's all the same, it'll have the same term and year. If it's maybe you switched your major, this date may look different than when you started your major. So this is important to know because if you did start, for example, the students that started in psychology fall 2018, that's the curriculum sheet that you should be following. So we had yesterday we talked about curriculum sheets and we sent it in an email, or if you want, you can always go onto the Cal Poly website to find them. But you always want to make sure you're following the correct year because departments do make edits to these every year. So we want to make sure you're following the correct curriculum sheet. You may not look at your degree progress report every day, but we want you to at least have the most accurate information on your curriculum sheet. So, there's multiple students that I screenshotted, so it's not just one student, but this particular student last registered for summer of 2020. So when I look at some other information in here, this is gonna be reflecting that. It does start with it tells you initially in the first shot, like how your overall and your Cal Poly GPA. Students all have 3 GPAs here, your overall, your Cal Poly, and a major GPA. So let's continue down and I'll show where the other ones are. So this is the icon list of what all these different little icons mean. Typically, the one that we like to see is the circle with the green check mark. That means that the area is completed, or even the in progress one, because that means that you're currently registered for it. The red boxes are the ones that those are the red flags basically. So I always recommend students to expand all so you can see everything that is being shown. Because if you don't expand all, everything's kind of collapsed. So you might miss some information. One of those things being your major GPA. But if you keep scrolling down, you'll see this student at the very top, it'll tell you your minimum unit requirement. So this student is a semester student, which most of our students are now, but the minimum unit requirement is 120 semester units for all of our majors in class. This is also reflected on your curriculum sheet at the top. Your degree progress report is essentially your curriculum sheet, but it's online. So this student, with everything they're registered for through summer of 2020, still needed 75 units. So with what they're registered for, everything you're currently registered for. So for example, right now the student we know is registered in spring and summer. So including those classes, this number here is already taken into account those units. So if she were to drop these units for summer, because maybe she decided she didn't want to take an online summer class, this number is still going to change. It's going to go back up to however many units you registered for. So this is an important area to look at. Excuse me. And then if you keep scrolling down, sometimes students miss this. We have mostly music students kind of fall into this where they may not have enough minimum upper division units that have been taken here at Cal Poly. So don't ignore these red squares. Just know like you'll be, hold on, that you will eventually earn all these units as you continue taking courses at Cal Poly. But when you have registered for all of your remaining courses in the last term and you plan to graduate, none of these should be red. So just keep that in mind. I think there's a glitch right now in this area, the 12 unit minimum. So don't worry about this right now. If you know that you took 12 upper divisions, the student now is sociology. If you know that you took 12 units of upper division sociology, then don't worry about it. But I know that the registrar's office has been working on trying to get this glitch fixed. So then if you keep scrolling down, here's where your GPAs are. So this is your overall GPA. This is your Cal Poly GPA, and this is your major GPA. So now we switch to a sociology major student. These are, so far, these are the only two classes, the ones that are checked green, that are counting towards the GPA. C's are 2.0s essentially. So if the student ends up getting an A in this class, well, this was probably already graded, but if the student had received an A, this GPA would go up probably to like a 3.0. So it usually will list all the courses that you have counting towards your major GPA. And then you have your American institutions requirements, which is your US history and your political science, your American government class. These are required to be taken at all CSUs. So this student was registered for this class in the fall, and this one was already taken. There's the green and there's the yellow. And then the American culture perspective requirement is typically also covered by the US history. So some students will transfer in with a different course that they might have satisfied their D1 history course with. If it's not this one, we can try to see if we could petition it or maybe see about it. I think that's pretty much the only way we're going to be able to do it. We find this a lot with a lot of our students that maybe didn't take the exact US history we would like students to take here, but maybe they took something else. And we just try to petition that. So you can ask us about that when we get to that point, if it's needed for you. Here's the graduation writing requirement, the test. You need to score a 7 or higher. It takes a while for it to grade. So if you take it and then I think they say to give it 6 weeks to see if you passed it or not. So just be patient. It'll show up. Then you probably will not receive an email or anything. You'll just see it checked off if you passed the test. Let's see what else. And then that's when you start with your GE requirements. So the graduation writing test is the last thing you see on the long list of stuff before you get to your actual courses that you have remaining. And I wanted to also remind everybody about the Golden Four, which are the 3A area courses and your B4 math. All those courses need to have a C- or higher in order to be counting as one of the Golden Four GEs. Sometimes some majors have a class double counting with one of their GEs. So for example, we see it a lot where students, psych and social, a lot of our majors require stats 1200, which is a math, to count towards their major and towards their B4, but maybe they got a D in it. They'll get credit for the D and it'll show satisfied in their major requirements, but it won't show satisfied in their B4 because they didn't get a C- or higher. So keep that in mind. Transfer students shouldn't have these courses missing because you can't transfer in unless you have completed these. So this is the GE area. If it has a little arrow, that means that it was transferred in. AP credit will also show that it was transferred in, so it'll have a little arrow. And then after it'll continue on all the way through your GE course listing, and then you'll start going through, get to your major courses. So this one, like earlier, this is a sociology student still. So the student has satisfied SOC 2201, is currently in progress of taking this, well, this was as of last fall, and is still needing SOC 3306 and 3305 and 3306. This wasn't the end of it, but, and then there's more requirements that are needed from the student, but I just took this screenshot to give you an idea of what it looks like when you need a class. So these classes, 3305, 3306, those are courses that the student should be considering and registering for. But I know that 3305 is a prerequisite for 3306. So if you go through your degree progress report, I kind of like to jot the courses down that the student is missing. That's kind of a good way, so when you're searching for classes, you can kind of just pinpoint which ones you want to try to register for. And then the last part of the degree progress report to note is this course is not used area. You need to read this here to really understand what this is. A lot of students just take it, just see courses not used, and that's what they think it is. But there's so much stuff here that's included. These courses are used towards your total unit requirement. They're not used in a GE area or towards your major courses, but they're courses you may have transferred in or taken that aren't counting in your GE or in your core area. If you were GE certified and your areas collapse in the GE area, they'll come down here too. So that's what this area says here. But just know that all these courses, even though it says they're not being used here, they are being counted towards your total unit requirement. So you can't petition these to be unrestricted electives. These are your unrestricted electives, most of them. All right. Okay, so that's the degree progress report. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat. Hold on a minute, let me stop sharing here. No questions so far? Anyone have questions? If not, I will continue on to show, and if you want someone to review your degree progress report with you, feel free to schedule an appointment with one of our advisors through CPP Connect, and then you can click select degree progress review, and we'll review it with you and make sure that everything is being accounted for. All right, so there's no questions asked, so I'm gonna go ahead and start into, some people don't know how to search for classes. So let's go to that. Let me share my screen again. All right, so this is when you go into your student center, it'll say search for classes or enroll, depending on which one you select, but it'll bring you to this page. I think it typically already enters the term, I think it's summer right now, but I need to switch it to fall 2020. And then I'm gonna go over how to look for a GE, because I feel like that's kind of what students have a lot of hard time, like they struggle with finding GEs. And a lot of it is because they try to use the course list that was given to them at orientation and try to search in each individual class, that's very time consuming. So the easiest way to search a GE, most juniors or seniors need to find a B5. Let's do a B5. Go down here to course attribute, click on area B, and then underneath that, go to the drop down again, and you can select whichever GE, but right now we're looking for a B5. And then search. And this is going to show you everything open that will satisfy the B5 area. And so there's a lot of them. So one thing I did want to point out is, so if you see TBA, that means typically it's an online class, but to be sure, I would click on it. And if it says fully asynchronous, it's an online class. And then another thing I wanted to point out is some courses are specific to certain majors. These engineering courses are specific to engineering. Don't register for those. Everything else, and I don't even know if it says engineering. Let me check. Oh, department consent required. So you wouldn't be able to get into it anyway unless you were an engineer major. But so there's like a long list of these courses. These are just B5s. And you can do this for every single GE course. Some courses can satisfy a B5 and maybe a D4, like health psychology, but it can only satisfy one of them. It cannot satisfy both. So this one, the class attribute's a B5 synthesis or a D4. It won't double count. It'll double count if you're a psych major as your emphasis and as one of the B5s or D4, but it won't double count with B5 and D4. You have to take 3 separate upper division GEs. So that's kind of an easy way to look up GE courses. Let me get out of this. And then, so the student that we were looking at earlier, he or she, I don't remember, but they were a sociology major. So I'm going to go down to sociology classes. I'm not going to put a specific class because you know what, if that class is full, I want a list of things I might be able to choose from. If you have specific days, let me go back. If you have specific days you need to attend school, you can check those off too. Maybe the student can only go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You may not always be able to find the ideal schedule, but if you can, that's nice. But just be mindful that you might not always fall into the ideal schedule. The student needed to take Soc 3305 and 3306. Let's see if this class is still needs a prereq. It does. So Soc 3305 is still the prerequisite for it. So the student's not going to be able to take this class if they're limiting their classes to only be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So you need to go back. I would just unselect them and then search just all the sociology classes. And there are a lot, I know there are a lot of sociology majors too, but there's a lot of research methods. Here's a 3305. So the student actually wasn't able to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but they could just go Monday, Wednesday. This class would be the one that the student would need to register for, and then whatever courses that they have left to take. So if you keep scrolling down, you'll see all the courses that sociology is offering. And this is without selecting a specific class, just the major. I think that's probably the easiest way to look it up. But that's how you search for classes. Let me stop sharing again and go back to the chat to see if anybody has any questions or if any of the other advisors have anything they want to add. No questions from the chat? Advisors, do you have any comments you want to add or any tips you want to remind them about that I might not remember? Just take a look at your enrollment date. Registration does start next week. If you make sure you're checking your prerequisites too. Use Schedule Builder if you can, if you want to. I know students find it to be really helpful. We will be having class student success ambassadors that are going to be hosting drop-in hours. If you need help with Schedule Builder, they can help you with that. Anything else? If not, then this is going to be a short one. No questions? Well, that's all I have for today. If you have any other questions or if you have any other concerns, please feel free to email us at the class-advising@cpp.edu email. And that's it. Thank you. Hope everybody's staying safe and healthy.